Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is AJ. If this is your first time seeing my video, welcome. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. So I want to share with you guys how I transform this my beautiful client. Before you begin adding any product to your face, it is essential to clean your face to remove any hidden dirt from your face. Hydration is also very important. So to hydrate her face, I use the Moist Essence moisturizer from Blossom Cosmetics. So every skin type requires hydration, whether it is dry skin or oily skin. Just keep that face moist and hydrated. This will also enable your makeup to last longer all day. To prime her face, I use this mattifying primer from Beauty. So I just apply it all over her T-zones, and then I went further to use my flat brush to press that in. After pressing that in with my flat brush, I now use my hand to massage the product. So for the primer, you don't apply primer under your eyes. So after doing that, I use this fix spray from Kiss Beauty to lock everything in. Then I now use a fan to just make sure everything is dry. So for foundation, I actually mix two foundation. That is V Beauty in the shade Ebony and Adventure in the shade Mocha. So I mix 50% of each foundation to get the required shade for her skin. Then I now use this soft beauty sponge from CPD. Soft and damp. When I say soft and damp, it means it should be wet. When you squeeze it, water should not come out from it. So I use a soft and damp beauty sponge to just make sure I blend everything. So make sure when you're blending, you just tap gently into the skin. Don't use too much pressure. Just tap gently all over her face to make sure the product is uniformly distributed. So for concealer, I used Spotless Concealer from Blossom Cosmetics in the shade Tan. So I apply it under her eyes, on her forehead, her nose. This concealer does not get dry easily, so I just let it to sit there for a while and I started doing her contouring. So I contour her face using a darker shade of foundation, which is one shade darker than her skin. So I used the dark foundation from Beauty in the shade Ebony. I applied on the forehead around the temple, going down to her cheek. I started applying from where her ear begins. Then I went in now with blending. I was just blending the product, placing my beauty sponge in the middle of where the product is to make sure as I'm blending I get rid of any demarcation between the 2 points and any harsh line. For blush, I use this red lip stain from the lip palette to give her cheek more color and definition. So I use the same beauty sponge I use in contouring and applying foundation to just blend everything and making sure it is even and every demarcation is taken care of. So when I was done with that, I started blending the concealer, making sure everything is well blended. To blend the concealer under her eyes, I started from the outer corner of her eyes, making sure I place my beauty sponge, the middle of my beauty sponge between the points separating the blush and the concealer, in order to get rid of every demarcation. So I just press everything under her eyes, on her nose, on her forehead, and making sure everything is even and there is no demarcation. So after doing that, I now use my beauty blender to just blend everything, making sure everything is on point before going to set the face. To set the face, I use this baking spice from Merak in the shade Cinnamon to set the face. So I just use it, I just press under her eyes, apply the product under her eyes, little quantity. So I set all over the T-zone, under her eyes, her nose, her forehead, making sure it is even. To set the rest of her face, I use a Beauty powder palette, the shade which is equivalent to her skin tone, to just set the entire face. When I was done with that, and I went in to contour all the area I previously contoured using the cream product. So I was just doing that on her forehead, and then I went further to do the nose contouring. To lock everything in, I use this fix spray from Kiss Beauty to set everything, making sure everything is in place. Then I use my fan to air dry the product. For reverse contour, I use the same setting powder from Merak Cosmetics in the shade Cinnamon to just set her face, to bake her face. So I left a lot of quantity of the product under her eyes to make sure it absorbs any moisture around that area. And also to easily dust up the excess eyeshadow fallout. For reverse contour, I use the same shade of powder from the View Beauty powder palette, which is one shade lighter than her skin, to bring out the contour. For her brows, I started by laying down the hair using this brow steamer from Yuki Signature. So I was just doing that to make sure the hair lies flat. And then when I was done with that, I now went in with my Merak setting powder to make sure it absorbed any oil from the brows. After doing that, I now use a big fluffy brush. You can even use a smaller one to dust up the excess setting powder from the brows. So for her brows, I use this brows gel from KR Cosmetic. So I started by outlining the bottom of the brows with using a flat angle brush, a well precise flat angle brush. So I was just outlining to bring out the desired shape. So when I was done with the bottom, I went to the upper section. So when I was moving towards the outer corner, I just tilted below to link the 2 points. Then I went further to complete the brows, the upper section of the brows. So I repeated the same exercise for the other section. Please, when outlining the brows, make sure you take your time. Don't be in a hurry. If the client is eating, just split with the client to wait for a while for you to finish. And then try to produce a small outline, because if you outline it to be too big, you face a problem with concealing. To fill the outline, I use a David pencil in the shade 003. So I was just trying to produce hairline structure. So when you're doing that, make sure your pencil is well sharpened. It should be sharpened and pointed. So just reproduce a hairline structure around the gap where there's not much hair. Just add a hairline structure, tiny stroke. When I was done with one side, I now moved to the other section, repeating the same exercise, using a well-sharpened pencil to produce hairline structure, filling the gap where there is no hair. So I was just filling in, making sure all the blank spaces are filled in. Moving forward, to conceal the brows, I always like to use my foundation because it is very easy for me to blend. So to conceal the beginning, I used a darker foundation which is close to her skin. So I use a darker foundation because I don't want any harsh line around the beginning. Then going towards the end, I now use a lighter concealer, to conceal the end. And at the extreme end, I still went in with a darker foundation to conceal it because I don't want that ending to have a harsh line around it. Then when I was done with that, I now use my small fluffy brush to just blend in the product, making sure everything is even and well blended. So I now went to the other section, repeated the same things, concealing the beginning of the brows with my darker foundation, which is equivalent to our skin tone, and then now using a lighter concealer to conceal the other remaining section. Then towards the extreme end, I now use the darker foundation to make sure I don't have any harsh line or white line around the ending. After doing that, I use now the same small fluffy brush I used for the other section to just blend everything in, making sure it's even. So for the upper section, I use the same shade I use in concealing the beginning of our brows. That's the same shade of foundation, which is equivalent to our skin tone, to give the brows more definition. So like I said, I'm using foundation because it's very easy to blend foundation. So now when I was done with that, I now use this other flat brush to just drag the product, making it easy for me to blend. So after blending, I used powder, which is equivalent to that same shade from the powder palette, VVT powder palette, to just blend everything, make sure all the product, the dry product is absorbed. So as you can see, I was just using powder to just add more definition to the brows. So I repeated the same exercise for the other section, did both the bottom and the top section of the brows. For the eyeshadow, I started by applying the eyeshadow base from Blossom Cosmetics. So I just applied on the eyeball, and then I now use my small well precise fluffy brush to just blend the eyeshadow. So I start blending from the edges to make sure there is no demarcation. When I was done with the edges, I now went to the center to just press everything in. I did the same thing for the right and the left section of the eyes. So I start blending from the edges, and as I explained earlier. So for the eyeshadow, I first of all start by applying a light, a nude shade. So using a small and well precise fluffy brush, I just start blending from the edges, that's from the outer corner to the inner corner. So when I was done with that, I now went with that shade, that dark shade. It's almost dark, a dark shade which look like like ox blood. So I was just blending from the inner corner to the outer corner. I did the same exercise the other way. The nude shade, blend from the inner corner to the outer corner because we don't want any demarcation. So just blend around the crease lines. After doing that, I now went in with a darker shade, just blending in precisely around the crease line. I make sure I blended very well and get rid of every demarcation. So for the crease, I use the same eyeshadow primer using it with the help of a flat well precise angle brush to cut the crease. So for you to cut the crease precisely, ask the client to open the eyes and look up. So the crease line always fall around that area where when the client open the eyes, they are unable to see the line, but when you always see the line where you close the eyes. So I just cut the crease, fill in the gap, use a fluffy brush to press in the product. At this point, my client said she was thirsty, so I gave her a small break to take some water. For the eyeshadow, I started by applying a lighter shade which looked like brown. So I was just applying it gently, beginning from the inner corner. So I took generous quantity of the product. I was just pressing it. So at this point, I was not blending. I just took the product using with the aid of a fluffy brush, just press in. So when I was done with that section, I did the other section, repeated the same exercise like I explained. Sorry, I took the eyeshadow, the required shade I wanted, started from the inner corner. So I started pressing in to make sure I don't have any crack or any demarcation. So to apply the glitter, I use this glitter glue to just outline the outer corner of the eyeshadow around the crease line. So I outline it and then I place some of the glitter glue on the small brush which I use in placing it so that it can easily stick. So I was just picking it one at a time and placing on the glitter, and I now use my brush to just press everything in. So when I was done with that, I started setting the rest of her face, pressing in and dusting up the excess setting powder. So I first of all started by the dusting of the eyeshadow fallout. So when I was done with that, I started pressing in the powder, the setting powder. I also use a small fluffy brush to just press under her eyes. She just dust up the excess setting powder under her eyes. For blush, I use this orange shade from the 4 exclusive blush palette. So I just applied the blush around the upper of her cheek to give it more definition and more color. And then when I was done with that, I now use this Kiss Beauty Fix Spray to just lock in everything. Sorry guys, I did the eyelashes and lining off camera. For the lips, I started by outlining the lips using the brown shade in the shade 202 from the K Arrow Brows Gel. So when I was done outlining, I now use a small fluffy brush to blend the product, making sure everything is even because we don't want any harsh line between the 2 points. So I was just blending. So I use just one lip stain for this lip. So I just applied that line pink shades and then I was just blending. So I started blending between the two colors, that's the brown section and the pink section. I did the same for the upper section. I was just blending everything, making sure everything is even. So when I was done with that, I now use a clear lip gloss. I just place a clear lip gloss all over her lips to give you that shine and that glow. So to bronze her face, I use this highlighter from Blossom Cosmetics. So I just ask her to smile a little bit and then I just apply it uniform. I just apply it over the blush using that small fluffy brush. When I was done with that, I did the same thing on her nose, her forehead, and I now went further to use this big flat brush to just blend because I don't want any harsh line around that area. To finalize, I use a So Pro Seal Spray to just seal and lock the makeup in. So guys, this is the end. What do you think about the look? Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and turn on the notification bell to get the latest updates and get notified. Bye. See you.